I want to offer some comments about bird calls. All too often, our only clue to the presence of some birds is their call. Thick scrub or the leaves of the high tree canopy can make it impossible to visually identify the caller. It is not surprising, then, that new observers are prompted to learn to recognize birds by their call. But there are severe limits to this strategy. On so many field trips, 50% or more species cannot be visually confirmed. Reliance on bird calls for identification in many cases is quite misleading. See how many of these bird calls you can identify. Birds have extensive repertoires. Consider the fact that birds often have special calls in the following situations. There is the subdued broadcast, which says, "Warning, a stranger present." It is often recognized and understood by unrelated species. Another call is an alarm, "Danger present." This too is often recognized and understood by other species, even mammals. "No trespassing, this is my territory," or "our territory." It is always directed at the same species and much exercised in the breeding season. There are courtship calls and invitations. Male to female, he is advertising good territory or himself as a good breeding prospect. And parents will often say to young, "Look here, food is available." Just about everyone will have seen this in a domestic poultry flock foraging in the garden. In the forest, a male ranging away from the nest site will call to the female, "I am foraging over here," and the nesting female responds, "All is well here at home." I witnessed this many times in orioles. Their calls are quite different in this example, but male calls are often quite different to female calls. There is foraging chatter between members of a small party or a bonded pair. For example, whipbirds, particularly in thick undergrowth, where they can't see one another. There is social chatter between members of a flock at leisure, of cockatoos and parrots and swans. There is travelling chatter between members of a flock on the wing, cockatoos and brolgers. Also, there may be geographic variations, and sometimes widely separated populations have markedly different language. Recent research has identified changes in the pitch of bird calls. Birds living in suburbia are changing their calls, presumably to compensate for the ambient sound levels and pitch, which are quite different in suburbia to what they are in the bush. If birds confined themselves to their own language, the issue would be difficult enough. But many birds mimic the language of other species, leaving aside warning, alarm and danger calls, which may be recognised for what they represent. Whether birds understand other foreign language elements is quite another matter. In his book Bird Wonders of Australia, first written in 1934, Alex Chisholm reported that the list of Australian birds known to use vocal mimicry, either consistently or casually, includes no fewer than 52 species. He tells the story of a forest surveyor who was camped out at Hell's Gates in Victoria, who was annoyed to see through his theodolite his men doing certain operations without the usual instructions. The fact became revealed subsequently that they had obeyed instructions from a lyrebird in an adjacent gully, which faultlessly imitated the surveyor's shrill staccato code of signals. He related a number of similar extraordinary stories, and they weren't about lyrebirds. Otherwise, perhaps we might not be so surprised, since we have come to accept the lyrebird's skill, which is universally recognised. So aspiring to learn to recognise the song of birds is a laudable ambition, but caution must be exercised before assuming the presence of a particular species without actually seeing it.